Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlie. That was terrific. And Marcus for supporting. Thank you. What a wonderful way to figure out the essence of what we're doing. This is and worship ending and service begin. This is the services ending and the worship beginning. How wonderful! What a wonderful way to begin the day. I'd like to take this opportunity also to thank Charlie as he prepares to leave New Jersey, leave Montclair, leave the legislative ministry. But not really. Charlie was one of the founding members of the legislative ministry, and we acknowledged his contribution last year when he left the board. His energy and creativity are unparalleled. And any of you who have heard him ask for donations can acknowledge that. Really. But it's hard to leave any place these days, what with Zoom conference calls and email, and I've heard about things like Twitter and Facebook. To me, that's just a vague kind of rumor. But those things make it impossible for people to leave. So we expect to have you here and vibrant and a part of our growing community. Thank you. I'm happy to welcome you to our 6th annual meeting. It's wonderful to see you all again. I especially like seeing familiar faces and new faces. This is a recognition of the contributions that you are all making on a daily basis. For it's really you all who are the legislative ministry, our blessed community. Your talents, passions, generosity, skills, that makes it all possible. That makes our advocacy real. With work as task force chairs and members of task forces as liaisons and signing letters, visiting legislators, all those things are the sum total of what we are. And we are an organization that is growing and evolving, building on that very strong base, building on what you've already done. Before we begin, I just want to point out some housekeeping details. We've put together, Craig and Lars primarily with help from other people, have put together a very extensive brochure. So you're going to see lots of information there. On the right side in green are the President's report and the Executive Director's report and the Treasurer's report. And we vote on the Treasurer's report later in the meeting. There's also in white the Nominating Committee report, which we'll also vote on later. Yellow are task force reports of the Legal Advisory Program summary. On the left side, you'll see issue briefs on racism and a packet of information on marijuana reform. And we also have 2 other documents that I want for your consideration. So it's good to look at them now. We have an evaluation form for today's meeting. And we really do welcome your feedback. We look at every single one that comes in and we summarize it and try to use that to build on planning for our next meetings. So take time to fill it out and give us whatever suggestions are possible. There's also a volunteer form which outlines opportunities to become more involved. Of course, you are all pretty much involved already, but there are other opportunities, so please look at that and consider helping in other ways. The board began last year's with a retreat during the summer that focused on strategic planning. Working with task force chairs, we created a vision for the legislative ministry. Where are we going? What should the organization look like in 5 years? What would we like it to look like? It was a really wonderful experience for us all, at Murray actually. The bottom line is you all in this room and your friends back in the congregations have created a really effective voice for justice based on UU values. An organization that is growing in numbers and effectiveness. But we want that to be an expanding voice, which involves more UUs, is more effective in public advocacy, more present in your congregations, and with more staff support for our wonderful executive director and volunteers. The sum total of our thinking were 4 strategic goals. Building a stronger financial base to allow additional staff to support our activities. Nick Lewis led the development committee in that effort, and he's going to be talking later, so I'm going to skirt over that now. Building visibility within congregations. Elaine Nigham worked with our Congregational Relations Committee to bring the legislative ministry to the congregations, to each congregation. We still have a ways to go, I want to acknowledge. With the development committee working together, we created ways to reach out to different congregations. Reverend Hirschberg is very willing to preach on Sunday mornings. We also have had small meetings with congregants, either after a sermon or at another time. We can have lay-led services in your congregations. We'd also like to use the wonderful new advocacy videos. Have any of you seen the advocacy videos that are on our website? Any of you seen them? Raise your hands if you've seen them. They're really terrific. So more of you should be looking at them and trying to use them within your congregation. They're really terrific. They cover some of the highlights of our advocacy activities. So we really want to reach out to congregations to be more present. So if you have any desire to have us come in any way, any of those ways that I've talked about, you can talk to me or any board member or Craig. We'd be very happy to come out and establish a way to make a connection. We've also worked on visibility within the community. The major focus for Toby, Tyler, and Missy Staples was the development of a new website, which is now online. It's operational. We haven't done an official launch yet because we want to get your feedback first about things that we might have omitted in terms of updating it. But you can go on the website, which is at the same place the old website was, UULMNJ.org, and there is a link to it, the reference to the link in your package materials. And there's also a place for feedback on the website. You have to work to find it. But you go to contact us and then website at UULMNJ.org, and you can give us feedback. So if you look in the website, you see something that's not been updated yet, because it's a living document, we'd be happy to hear from you. We also worked, our fourth goal was working on a volunteer coordinator, to find a volunteer coordinator who will involve more UUs in our activities. Because we consistently found during the course of the year that we had many, many great ideas. People presented us with great ideas, but there were limits on what we could do because of the limit in number of volunteers. So we'd like to try to identify more people to become involved. Judy Strachan and Andrea Lerner found a volunteer coordinator, Bill Slezak, who's going to be working to involve more of you this year in our activities. So in closing, let me say that we've made wonderful progress for each of these goals, but there's more to come because we are, in fact, a growing and expanding voice, and we're trying to figure out how to implement it. And now Alison, who is the president of the Public Policy Network, will make a few remarks. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My task this morning is really to share with you a statement that our board has put together about dismantling racism. And I want to say just a couple of things before I share that statement, and then I have an invitation for all of you. The first thing is that we felt called to make this statement because, of course, racism is and maybe the underlying issue that affects everything that the UU Legislative Ministry of New Jersey is working on. We cannot fully understand and confront the issues involved with health care, affordable housing, economic justice, anti-gun violence, environmental degradation, or any of the issues we care about without fully understanding how these issues disproportionately affect certain segments of our population, in particular, people of color. And then actually, I feel like as a Gen Xer, something that I want to lift up is that the colorblind narrative that came out of some of the incredible work of the civil rights movement, and I fully understand that I stand on the shoulders of people who gave their lives before me. But I was born in the mid-70s, and I just want to share, from my perspective, the colorblind narrative has never served us in a positive capacity during my lifetime. And I think it's so important for us to confront that, or else we risk not seeing the disparity that is going on all around us. Of course, we're called to make a statement about dismantling racism at this time as Unitarian Universalists to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every human being, because we cannot afford to stay silent with the images burned in our brains of people raising their hands in the air or fleeing and being shot in the front or in the back. It is vital that we respond at this time, or all of our Unitarian Universalist principles risk irrelevance. And on a hopeful note, clearly the Black Lives Matter movement has penetrated deeper and wider in our society than it has at other times. And so again, we are living in a moment in history where real change may be possible, but only if we are bold and stand up for the rights of our Black sisters and brothers, our youth of color, all the people that are disproportionately affected by these issues. And so I want to read to you a statement that was crafted from the UULMNJ board, and it's also in your packet. Unitarian Universalists have long been spiritually and morally committed to the elimination of racism and oppression. We have a long history of coming forward to answer the call for racial justice, and UUs have shed their blood in these struggles. In this, we are motivated by the moral imperative of our covenant to affirm and promote the principles that are the uniting basis of our faith community. The inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. The work to eliminate racism continues to be a litmus test of the strength of our principles and the authenticity of our faith. The appearance and practice of racism in our society has in many ways radically changed, yet its basic manifestations remain the same. The illusion of a colorblind society after the victories of the great civil rights movement and the historic election of an African American president has fully dissolved. Even though attention is being paid to the continuing epidemic of the unpunished killings of people of color by police, it took a series of increasingly disturbing incidents before anyone paid attention to a long-established pattern of violence. This demonstrates that we have far to go to address the problems of racism. While it could be unfair to compare police killings to lynchings, the simple fact is that the rate of such killings in the last 15 years matches or exceeds the rate of some 5,000 recorded lynchings between 1882 and 1968. About 60 of these have been recorded to be victims while in police custody. Currently, the rate of police officer killings of people of color is reported to be at a rate of about 2 or more per week in the United States. Some things are too hard to just move forward after saying aloud. The divide that exists between the criminal justice system and people of color is not an accident. It is a direct result of institutional racism. This seemingly easy and all too common resort to lethal force in the moment of confrontation between police and persons, usually men of color, is only the most brutal aspects of the new Jim Crow. To the cry, "Black Lives Matter," we hear the casual reply, "All lives matter." The problem with proclaiming that all lives matter is that it denies the particular need to focus on Black lives. Fundamentally, until our society accepts that Black lives matter, the call that all lives matter is a simple denial of reality based on the limited experience of privileged people. A basic condition of American racism is that the realities of life of people of color are not known well enough. In all aspects of American life, already drowning in inequality, people of color as a group continue to be most deeply victimized in the denial of human and civil rights, employment and income, health, reproductive services, and life expectancy, wealth accumulation and home ownership, and in de facto residential and educational inequality and continued segregation. African-American author Neely Fuller Jr. has written, "No major problem that exists between the people of the known universe can be eliminated until racism is eliminated." Racism continues today to be a key interactive force affecting all issues in the struggle for social progress. Issues of race and racism infect all issues that the UULMNJ and Unitarian Universalists feel strongly about, from criminal justice reform and ending mass incarceration, to fair housing, to immigration, to gun violence, to healthcare, to the impact of environmental degradation. It is crucial for us to recognize that people of privilege experience these issues in an utterly different way from people of color. We must commit to expanding connection and understanding in order to unleash the full transformational power of a multicultural, multiracial alliance for meaningful and lasting change. We continue to work to build the beloved community of all people, regardless of race, regardless of economic condition, regardless of sexual preference or gender identity, and of other seeming differences. The differences among us are not categories for separation. They only serve to show the amazing variations and possibilities of the human race. Seeing, understanding, and appreciating different realities and experiences is a major goal for achieving the transformational power of the beloved community. The UU Legislative Ministry of New Jersey will continue to address the dismantling of racism on every issue and in all aspects of its activity. We ask that the New Jersey Unitarian Universalist congregations we serve join us in this endeavor. The boards of the UU Legislative Ministry of New Jersey and the UULMNJ's Public Policy Network. And so I hope, here's the invitation, that you will not allow this paper to just amass in a folder on your desks at home or at work, or even worse, in that pocket in your car on the way home. I hope that you will bring this back to your congregations and will consider having each of your congregations have a meaningful conversation about a statement that you might make. And that then you will join with the networks that we have through the legislative ministry to visit your legislators and to talk to them about how commitment to dismantling racism and a deeper understanding of how this impacts every issue that we might visit them about in the future is extremely vital. Only through such deep, meaningful conversations in our congregation and with the legislators whose minds and hearts we seek to change will we begin to create the difference that we want to make in this world. And I want to thank all the people that were involved in crafting this statement, and we certainly welcome your ideas and feedback as you discern what your congregational boards and congregations as a whole will want to say in the coming months and the coming year. Thank you for participating in this important day here together.